Hello guys, back on the Al Razda channel. We are going to witness another Donghua with a post-apocalypse theme about MCs who can copy other people's skills, and of course, it is the First Order. For those of you who haven't seen the previous part, please check out the playlist on my YouTube channel, or click on the link in the description. Okay, without further ado, let's get right to the story. After Liu Yuan had killed 5 people with a pistol who had broken into Mr. Zhang's house, Miss Li Xiaoyu hugged him to calm him down. At the same time, Mr. Zhang appeared and was immediately shown the bodies lying in front of his house. The shooting was also witnessed by local residents who heard the noise from the direction of the school. As a result, the civil military soon arrived at Mr. Zhang's residence to conduct further investigations. Mr. Zhang then approached Liu Yuan and saw the weapon the boy had used to commit the murder. Of course, it was a gun that Ren Xiaosu had taken earlier. But Mr. Zhang didn't seem too surprised because he had also seen Liu Yuan sneak out to get the gun. Without denying it, Liu Yuan then says that he and Miss Xiaoyu will leave this place immediately and leave the city. Both of them will not involve Mr. Zhang and their problems. Flashback to some time earlier, and we are shown the time when Liu Yuan was shown the place where Xiaoshu kept the gun he stole. Xiaoshu buried the object in a nearby forest area and asked his younger brother to pick up the gun when Ren Xiaosu left home. And if at any time Liu Yuan was forced to use the gun for self-protection, Xiaoshu asked his younger brother to immediately go to the forest that Xiaoshu had indicated as a hiding place until his brother came to pick him up. Because if this weapon was discovered by others, Wang Chongyang would immediately come to arrest Liu Yuan. If that was really the case, Xiaoshu also asked his brother to bring along Miss Li Xiaoyu to take care of Liu Yuan later. After remembering his brother's words, Liu Yuan thoughtlessly went back into the room and prepared all the supplies they needed for the trip together with Miss Xiaoyu. After all, the two of them would be leaving Mr. Zhang's house that very night. Mr. Zhang stood at the door and didn't let Liu Yuan go anywhere, saying that it wasn't safe to stay in the jungle. According to the old man, it might be true that the place Xiaoshu told him about was hidden. But wolves with keen senses would always be able to find the place if someone lived there. Besides, Liu Yuan doesn't have to worry about this problem this time either, because Mr. Zhang will take care of it. And not long after that, Wang Chongyang and his subordinates came to Mr. Zhang's house to investigate. We move on to the Dead City, where we are shown with Xiaoshu, who still seems to be exploring the outskirts of the city. During his journey, he enters old buildings several times because who knows if there are useful items inside. Back at Mr. Zhang's house, after further investigation, the army found that 5 people were found dead with gunshot wounds from the same type of weapon. And after Wang Chongyang saw the gun used in the murders, he could tell at a glance that the gun belonged to the factory manager. And according to his analysis, it was most likely Xiaoshu who stole it, because in this slum city, no one has the guts to use a gun except the MC, who has big guts and no fear. Wang Fugu came from another direction and tried to defend Xiaoshu, saying that what happened here was just a misunderstanding. As he approached Wang Chongyang, Fugu also tried to bribe Chongyang with a gold ingot, so that Xiaoshu would be released from the man's accusations. Wang Chongyang, however, rejected Fugu's bribe outright, throwing away the gold bar Fugu had given him. Not to be outdone, the man ordered his men to immediately arrest everyone living in the school and detain them until Xiaoshu came home and explained everything. While pointing his gun at Fugu, Chongyang also told the fat man to leave immediately so that he wouldn't do things like before, especially defending someone like Xiaoshu. And that's when Mr. Zhang showed his ID card with the number 178 on it, and told Chongyang to go and show the ID card to Luo Lan's boss, who was inside the fortress. Mr. Zhang also wanted to talk to Boss Luo directly. Mr. Zhang was very confident that Boss Luo would soon know Mr. Zhang's true identity. And he didn't think this was a problem that Chongyang could handle, so he had to ask Boss Luo for help. And without asking many questions, Chongyang immediately went to see Boss Luo, leaving his subordinates who were in charge of detaining everyone there. This moment clearly shows that Mr. Zhang's real identity is not just a random teacher, guys. After Chongyang left, Mr. Zhang also assured Liu Yuan that he would be fine, and that the soldiers would not do anything to harm Mr. Zhang himself. Mr. Zhang did not blame Liu Yuan at all for this incident, because for him, this world was already wrong. In addition, Mr. Zhang also thanked Liu Yuan for saving him from the bandits who had earlier tried to break into Mr. Zhang's residence. Then who is Mr. Zhang's real identity? Just by revealing his identity, Wang Chongyang was immediately left speechless. After revealing Mr. Zhang's identity to Boss Luo directly intervened and went to Mr. Zhang's house with a large number of troops. Even the people inside the fortress who saw the large number of troops thought that there was a war going on somewhere. The scene shifts again to Mr. Zhang's residence. And this is where we are shown a fact about the true identity of Mr. Zhang, whose real name is Zhang Jinglin. And before he became a teacher at the school, Mr. Zhang himself was a soldier from Fort 178 in the Zebei region. But he decided to retire after he realized that war was not the right solution to save the world. But now Mr. Zhang has decided to return to Zebei because he feels that the world is not okay. Besides, by going to Zebei, Mr. Zhang could see his old colleagues who were waiting for him there. Although he was from a different region, Mr. Zhang was very confident that the people from Fort 113 would not harm him. At most, Boss Luo would later decide to send Mr. Zhang back to Fort 178. Inside the fort in the middle of the road, then we are shown with Boss Luo bringing a lot of troops while he calls someone, telling the man he is calling that Zhang Jinglin from Fort 178 has been found, and Boss Luo thinks to kill him. However, the man in the white shirt had a different idea from Boss Luo. He thought that Zhang Jinglin should not be killed because the group of assassins from Fort 178 would not keep quiet if they found out that Mr. Zhang was killed in their fort. Trying to hide the fact of Mr. Zhang's death would not be possible because there are no airtight walls in this world, he said. In conclusion, the white shirt felt that they only needed to send Zhang Jinglin back to where he came from, and then the people of Zebei would no longer have any problems with Boss Luo and the Qingxi group. And even if Boss Luo still wanted to eliminate Zhang Jinglin, it would not be too late to kill him in the future. Out of these problems, the man in white, who was apparently now in Jingshan, also asked Luo's boss about the identity of a person named Ren Xiaosu. And of course, Luo's boss was quite familiar with the name, because Ren Xiaosu was a medicine seller whose products were also consumed by the boss. After further questioning Wang Chongyang, this fat Luo boss also said that Xiaoshu had a younger brother who lived with him. And what a coincidence, he also had some sort of relationship with Zhang Jinglin. After finding out, the man in white asked Boss Luo not to deal with Xiaoshu's younger brother, and as quickly as possible drive Zhang Jinglin away from outside the 113 fortress. After finishing his call, the man in white then introduced himself to Luo Xinyu and also to Liu Bu, who was detained. His name was Qing Zhen, who had quite an influential position in the Qingxi group, and he is also the brother of Luo Lan's boss, and Qing Zhen here is also in charge of the 112 fortress area, which operates to Jingsan to find and collect useful materials that can be used to develop the Qingxi group. A short scene. Here we will be shown with Ren Xiaosu, who is still exploring, And this time he entered a department store, aka modern market, guys. Apart from finding some strange items, Xiaosu was also immediately excited when he saw a gold shop in there. Back to Qingzhen. With just a few sentences, he was able to extract a lot of information from Liu Bu, the man of burden. Liu Bu revealed that there were 3 names that were considered influential in their team, including Yang Xiaojin, Xu Xianchu, and Ren Xiaosu. And according to him, of the 3, Xiaoshu was the one to watch out for, and the Qingxi group should shoot him immediately when they meet this Xiaoshu. Liu Bu also felt that the 3 people he just mentioned did not have simple motives to interfere in the historical affairs of mankind. As he continued to dig up information from the man of burden, Qingzhen asked if Liu Bu also knew Zhang Jinglin's identity. Although Liu Bu did not know Zhang Jinglin, he had heard Xiaoshu say the name several times, and he thinks that this Xiaoshu must be Zhang Jinglin's accomplice, whom they must eliminate immediately. Liu Bu also revealed that this Xiaoshu was a bum from outside the wall, who was recruited by Liu Bu because of his ability as a guide. And after seeing his ability, Liu Bu also suspects that this Xiaoshu is a superhuman, as he has very strong physical strength that can even lift an adult with just one hand. While Xu Xianchu is certainly a person with superhuman abilities, because he can create strong shadow clones that can withstand bullet fire. The information obtained from Liu Bu was immediately recorded in the information section, and Xu Xianchu was classified as a novice superhuman with a danger level of C, while Xiao Shu, who had great physical strength, was classified as a danger level of F, because in his opinion, people with strong physical abilities are often found everywhere, and they are also not too dangerous. As for Miss Yang Xiaojin, Liu Bu feels that she doesn't have any kind of super ability, nor does she have any dangerous abilities. On the contrary, Liu Bu still insisted that it was Xiao Shu who should be given full attention because she was very dangerous. Qingzhen was even more curious as to how special Xiao Shu was. Did she have any other great abilities? And this time, the question was directed at Miss Xin Yu. Miss Xin Yu then agreed that Xiao Shu had one dangerous ability, and that was the ability to make others feel angry. In order to find the 3 people mentioned by Liu Bu, Qingzhen ordered a subordinate named Suman to immediately bring several teams to search for the 3 people, and Suman must return before 12 o'clock tonight. Out of curiosity, Miss Xin Yu asked if the mutations in Jingshan had anything to do with the Qingxi group's research. Qingzhen denied it, as the mutations of the creatures there were unexpected to him as well. However, he speculated that it might have been a change in one creature that contaminated the entire mountain range. In the middle of the explanation, Liu Bu interrupted and said that he had nothing to do with the Jingshan matter. Qingzhen knew this because if Liu Bu was involved, he would have been killed on the spot. Qingzhen then showed Liu Bu and Miss Xin Yu a large cage, and after seeing that there was a living creature inside the cage, Liu Bu was immediately reminded of the horrible serial creature that had eaten Xu Xia earlier. The memory of that incident made him feel sick to his stomach. Qingzhen went on to explain that the monstrous creatures in the cage were test subjects that the Qingxi would also use for their experiments. To avoid any misunderstanding, Qingzhen also explained that these creatures were not from the Qingxi group's experiments. They were from a time before the great catastrophe that happened hundreds of years ago. And of course, the mention of their word that came out of Qingzhen's mouth proves that there is not only one species of this chain creature, guys. And they were probably all test subjects who had escaped from a research lab in the past. What interested Qingzhen was, how could there be people who could live for more than hundreds of years? And even these creatures were super tough. In order to capture the creature, the Qingxi had to sacrifice 5 of their military troops who were killed during the siege. However, in order to conduct the experiment, Qingzhen only needed 1 of the creature's tails, while the rest would be destroyed as soon as they encountered it, so that it would not return to cause more casualties. How could an experimental creature live for hundreds of years? In this case, Qingzhen had some suspicions, although they could not be confirmed. It is said in the theory of cell division that human cells will live as long as they divide, and this will happen continuously. But there is a limit, where human cells will stop dividing 50 times before they die of their own accord. So Qingzhen thinks it's possible that researchers in the past had a method to make cells divide indefinitely, which could increase the body's metabolism and prolong human life. But it seems that the researchers who did this did not consider the consequences of what they were doing, because by creating such inhuman-looking creatures, the test subjects would lose their human intelligence in return. Adding to the information record, Qingzhen mentioned that the evolution that happened to the creature could no longer be considered human, and as suspected, the creature was the product of Tinder Corporation's genetic engineering before the pre-disaster era. Qingzhen then asked his men to shine a light on the test subject, which puzzled Qingzhen because the creature was afraid of light, yet it had previously chosen to move during the day. According to one researcher, there are two possible reasons for this. First, the creature was unable to deal with its current self due to the personality of the human in the past. Second, it was the animal nature that had emerged in him. Qingzhen then asked his troops to immediately contact Suman, who was sent to capture the three targets. Qingzhen felt that there was a connection between the three people and the serial creature that chose to show itself during the day. Next, we are taken to the old department store building, and here we are shown with Xiaosu, who is in a gold shop. And after he found a lot of gold in the shop, he compacted the gold he found there to be as dense as possible, so that the volume became smaller. Not without reason, Xiaosu did this so that the gold would fit into his storage in the palace system, which was only 1 cubic meter in size. Gold-like jewelry that Xiaosu can compress is now all in storage. Unfortunately, there are still some jewelry and gold bars that do not fit anymore. So Xiaosu will only carry the gold bars here and put them in the cloth that he wants to carry himself. At the same time, Xiaosu also heard the sound of footsteps, which, after checking, turned out to be the footsteps of the Qingxi group's militias, led by Suman, who want to arrest 3 targets, including Ren Xiaosu. They are all approaching the building he is currently occupying. As Suman and his team were about to enter the department store building, suspicion arose when Suman saw someone's footprints left right at the entrance, and obviously what he saw were new footprints. So most likely the owner of the footprints was still inside the building. Without wasting much time, Suman ordered his team members to prepare to ambush the building and capture the enemy hiding inside. After a few moments of inspection, some members who were on the second floor of the building found several gold bars left on the floor. And when Suman looked at the area around the location, apart from the gold bars, there was also some jewelry that had been messed up. Along with that, he also contacted Qingzhen to simply report that he had now successfully confirmed the target's trail. And currently the target had gone in another direction, but Suman promised to catch and bring him to Qingzhen soon. Although Suman still couldn't confirm who the target was, he had an assumption that it was probably Ren Xiaosu. Because out of the 3 targets of the operation, only Xiaosu was a person from outside the fortress who definitely needed money in order to survive. Qingzhen, who started to feel interested in Xiaosu, told Suman to immediately capture and bring Xiaosu to him. Just as their call ended, a gold bar fell from the ceiling, and it turned out that it came from Xiaoshu, who was trying to climb to the top floor. After Xiaoshu's whereabouts were discovered, the entire Qingxi group military quickly mobilized in unison. Following Xiaoshu's movements, they had the opportunity to lay a two-way siege to the MC. The two-way street that no longer had a gap forced Xiaoshu to jump out of the floor, reach an old chandelier, and then switch to the part of the floor above him and continue moving back to the top floor. The military soldiers who did not let Xiaoshu get away with it returned to the chase. In the midst of their pursuit, some members were confused. Why did Ren Xiaosu keep running to the top floor, even though it was a dead end? Was he a stupid person, they thought? But unlike the other members, Zuman here actually felt that Xiaoshu was an intelligent and very rational person, because he immediately left the gold bar without thinking when he knew the arrival of the military troops hunting him. Zuman was sure that the target had a plan to get out of this situation. When the man looked outside, right next to the department store building, there was another building that was shorter than this place. And this is where he felt that Xiaoshu intended to jump from this building to the neighboring building. Taking a quick step, Zuman then divided the troops into two. One would chase Xiaoshu upstairs, and the other would go to the neighboring building. After a while of chasing, Xiaoshu was finally on the rooftop, and it turned out that Zuman's previous assumption was correct, in that Xiaoshu intended to jump to the building next to him, which was shorter in height. Although the distance between the two buildings was quite far apart, under the circumstances, Xiaoshu had no other choice but to take this risky decision. After preparing his stance, the MC utilized his speed and leg strength to make the long jump. And in this way, Xiaoshu managed to distance himself a little from the pursuit of the Qingxi group military. And Xiaoshu continued to try to jump over building after building that was shorter in order to escape from the Qingxi group troops. After seeing Xiaoshu's ability, Zuman, who was now on his way to the neighboring building, contacted Qingzhen again and reported that Xiaoshu's strength seemed to have to be re-evaluated, as his strength was higher than the level F danger level. Meanwhile, Zuman and his troops had now arrived at the building Xiaoshu was occupying. From the other side of a tall, ruined building, we are shown Miss Yang Xiaojin preparing for a long-range shot that she is targeting somewhere. To find out the details of this, we will then be shown a reenactment scene where Xiaoshu is making a long jump to move from one building to another. That's where he saw Miss Yang Xiaojin, who was in the ruins of the tallest building. Here the woman also showed herself to be a superhuman when she pulled out a sniper weapon that came out of nowhere. Meanwhile, Xiaoshu, who had moved to the neighboring building, noticed Yang Xiaojin, who seemed to be targeting someone. And if you read the direction of the target, here Xiaoshu could tell that Miss Yang Xiaojin was targeting Qingzhen, who was very far away from the woman's position. Just as Miss Xiaojin was locking onto the target, a man in a black suit appeared to get in the way, causing Miss Xiaojin to delay her shot for a moment. It was at this moment that an incident occurred that no one had counted on. Luo Xinyu, the songstress we thought was a burden, was able to easily untie the rope around her wrist. She also quickly pulled out a small knife hidden in her hair and aimed it at Qingzhen. But the impromptu attack was foiled by the man in the black suit, who turned out to also be a superhuman, and he was a special bodyguard who would protect Qingzhen. And uniquely, this superhuman's weapons were two fans. Of course, it wasn't just any fan, because it had a sharpness and durability that was stronger than a dagger. Meanwhile, Miss Xinyu, whose plan had failed because of the man in the black suit, was now in an unfavorable condition. Because there were military troops around her, Miss Xin Yu quickly chose to retreat and escape. But it wasn't going to be easy because the man in the black suit wasn't going to just let her go. So, it was a battle of wills and strength between the two of them. After a brief exchange of blows, Luo Xinyu leapt into the air by utilizing the opponent's weapon. And this is where Miss Xinyu revealed that she was also a superhuman. She created a shadow teleportation portal that would take her out of the siege. Miss Xinyu also did a little celebrating before her body entered the portal. And it was time for Yang Xiaojin to perform his duty. After the wind disrupted the path of the incoming shot, there was a shot from a very far direction that was aimed at Qing Zhen. Of all the people there, the only one who could feel Xiaojin's bullet traveling at high speed was the man in the black suit. Since he didn't have much time, he took the initiative to save Qing Zhen by using his fan. But since the fan couldn't withstand Xiaojin's super bullets, the fan man had to give up his body, which had to be shot, making his body a meat shield for Master Qing Zhen. Meanwhile, the bullet that pierced the body of the man in the black suit then stopped right in front of Qing Zhen. And finally, in order to find the mastermind behind the shooting that had just happened, most of the Qingxi group's military were dispatched. They were all deployed in various directions, as they were still unable to determine the origin of the shots that had previously traveled so fast and so far. Meanwhile, Qing Zhen then picked up Miss Xiaojin's bullet that was lying on the ground, and from this, he found out that the person who did it was from the thugs organization, including Miss Xinyu, who was also from the same organization. Walking up to Liu Bu, Qing Zhen wondered why, as the manager of Luo Xinyu, the man didn't even know that Miss Xinyu was from a rebel organization with super abilities. To Qing Zhen, there were no words more appropriate for Liu Bu than fool and scum. And in this chaotic era, according to him, there would be no suitable place for scum like him. Hence, Liu Bu must die. And of course, in the end, this burden died when Qing Zhen planted a bullet from Xiaojin on his forehead. Meanwhile, Xiaosu, who had just watched the exciting scene, was also in a bad situation because the Qingxi group troops who were looking for him were now in front of the building that Xiaosu was currently occupying. And as it turned out, Miss Yang Xiaojin, who was in the distance, had already noticed the presence of Xiaosu, who had been watching the action earlier. As a farewell to the MC, this lady did a little favor. Xiaojin then fired a shot that missed the remains of the building besides Xiaosu. He revealed his own position to the Qingshi military forces, forcing them to split the team into two. One stayed after Xiaosu, while the other went towards Miss Xiaojin. Along with that, Luo Xinyu also appeared from inside the portal and waved to the MC. Meanwhile, Xiaosu, who was speechless, was only silent, knowing the fact that the two women turned out to be in cahoots with each other. Until finally the two of them left using Miss Xinyu's portal while holding hands. Now that the two women were safe, what about Ren Xiaosu? Not long after, the Qingxi military had arrived at the roof of the building, since the lower path was now safe, and there were no enemies blocking the escape route. Xiaosu was about to leave this not-too-high building. But before that, he fired a few pistol shots at the enemies who were already behind the door and continued to leave afterwards. However, his pursuit that night, led by Suman, did not stop at this point. In the midst of his escape, Xiaosu thought about the fact that Miss Xiaojin and Miss Xinyu had been in cahoots from the start, and Xiaosu had been completely deceived. Even though there had previously been several moments that showed the closeness between the two, he ignored it. Besides being good at acting, in fact, their goal of going to Jingsan from the beginning was to target someone's life, and that's what Ren Xiaosu never thought of. Right at 12 o'clock, which was Xiaosu's escape route, at that time there was a volcanic eruption. That is very dangerous, but our MC no longer has another escape route other than there. Moreover, around the mountain there is also a forest, which is the most favorable terrain for him. Considering that he himself is a master of survival in the wild, of course this will greatly benefit him. On the other hand, despite realizing that the chase was quite dangerous, it still could not type Suman and his team's intention to capture Ren Xiaosu. While pursuing, Zuman also continued to evaluate Xiaoshu's abilities, who was now known to have great running speed. He can cover 100 meters in just 3 seconds.
2，力量未知，目标100米冲刺速度为3秒9，可作战单位注意，格杀勿论。
Elsewhere for a while, we see Qingzhen, who is confused when he sees Liu Bu's body carrying a strange rag doll. It's a doll that was previously thought to be a ghost, guys, but this is just a trivial thing in this story.
这是什么玩意儿？
Back in the forest, when the military troops accelerated their pace to be able to catch up with Xiaoshu, who was rarely far away after entering the forest, suddenly their movement had to be stopped. When they encountered a black shadow that attacked, the shots fired by the military forces were completely unable to stop this shadow that had a form like Xiaoshu. The shadow was also completely unstoppable by the military, and some of them also had to fall after being beaten by the shadow. After taking down a few of them, the shadow controlled by Xiaoshu revealed that he was Zhu Xianchu. And that's the ending of the Donghua the First Order series this episode, guys. Thank you for those of you who have watched until the last minute. And the last word from me, bye.